contents of the following program do not necessarily reflect the views and/or opinions of Barton Cablevision Incorporated, its management, or employees.
Latitude 0, longitude 0, planned by the Creator. Xanthopus was the first man found on the Earth. That Earth was the motherland, Africa. We know that without total understanding of what happened in the past, it would be difficult to relate to the future. We know that within the structure of the music, there should be a message, and the message should be truth. So now, we give you Africa, the center of the world.
Center of the world, center of the world.
When you take my class, you will feel the force, cause I know the roots that the rap is from. When I speak to you, I am not dumb. Hear my rap and begin to dance, and I promise you this, you will advance. You may have seen the Raiders from the Lost Ark, but you still left the theater in the dark. So clap your hands to the beat as the wonder song, and the GBE shine on the ground.
People, are you dead or what? Young people!
I said once upon a time in Al-Kabul lived the kings and queens who looked like you. It was a land of sun with a golden shine, a place that once was yours and mine. Home of many great dynasties who created science and astronomy, where the Romans came to study math and the Greeks found out about the past. In case you wonder what else they did, the Akabulans created the pyramids, and before Napoleon could even blink, in Akabul there stood a giant sphinx. Some say they came from outer space, but they are a part of the human race. If you know the place where they can be found, you may be the one who can wear the crown. Wear the crown. I wear the crown. So proud to say that we all wear the crown. I wear the crown. You wear the crown. the baddest shoe, not the slickest rapper that you ever knew. Ever worn the crown, though they wanted to, but they'll want to until they die. Not a man of science with a PhD, not a lady of law, master's degree will wear the crown unless they can see a unique reality. You see, when you say you wear the crown, then make sure you know it is profound. In case it sounds like a mystery, I'm talking about our story. It can make Akhenaten nod to you, it can make Nefertiti beckon you. With the crown you will begin to glow, when it's secret you begin to know. Next time you feel like you're in a rut, go see the mighty kingdom of King Tut. It will blow your mind, no doubt it's true. Cause guess what? King Tut looks just like you. You were Cleopatra, queen of the Nile. The sun would wink when it saw you smile. You were the Hannibal of the history book, and the earth would tremble at your very look. You were the builders of the pyramids. You are the face up of the Sphinx. You rode on the Nile in grace and style. Look at yourself today and think. See the hieroglyphics up on the wall, like the dancers on the floor. They will not fall. If you take one look, it will astound, and then you will see who wears the crown.
Wear the crown.
And you will make it if you try. But don't you ever forget what it will take to wear the crown you cannot fake. If you're gonna lead, you got to be a king and give the world your everything. Or be a man like Malcolm X and demand for all the very best. Or conduct the railroad like Harriet. We all owe her a lifetime debt. If you're gonna fight, don't do it free. Make them pay to see, just like Ali. Or sing like Ella and make them guess. Is it you or is it memory? If you play a sport, become number one like Joe Louis and Jackie Robinson. Make the J your shining star. Shoot like magic, don't with your mind. Or if you can write, then write some books like Langston Hughes or Miss Brooks. If you think you're smart, don't deceive us. Be an Imhotep, be a genius, and don't let anybody confuse the fact you don't wear the crown just because you're black. Everybody in the world has a crown in place that becomes their culture and their fate. We will not deny our history or by the line. We have no claim to be renowned when we were first to wear the crown.
Hotep, welcome to another segment of KEPRA, the African Worldview. Recently, there's been much discussion on the lowness of the test scores of students in the Detroit public school system. It seems as if students of African descent are having problems with technical aspects of the curriculum and are having trouble with their reading and math. Today we have with us two sisters who are teachers in the public schools at Martin Luther King High, who have developed a new concept in teaching science. They call it teaching from a dialectic perspective. Welcome Miss Valerie Brock, a chemistry teacher, and Miss Robin James, a biology teacher.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Give me a little bit about your background. What inspired you to become science teachers, Robin?
Nothing.
Nothing?
No, nothing inspired me to become a science teacher, actually. I was inspired to stay as a science teacher. Actually, in high school, I studied mostly music and mathematics and science, so that was the curriculum. And I always had this feeling, even though they had compartmentalized music over here and science over here and the arts were over here, that they were very much interrelated. And I remember in high school I used to tell everybody, science and math and music, they're all the same. And so for a long time, through my studying, I went off to Grambling State University in Louisiana and I studied biology there because I had a lot of science. And when I came back, I finished at Wayne State University. And I decided to go and take a break and start teaching in the Detroit public schools. And I ultimately fell in love with education, with teaching. So then I decided to stay.
But not so much in love with teaching biology.
No, I'm in love with teaching biology, but not biology the way it's prescribed in the textbook biology. You have biology, since it is the study of life, living things, it's the study of everything. So there's music in biology, there's technology in biology, there's art in biology, and it's more than what the textbook prescribes for our students.
Ms. Brock, what inspired you to become a chemistry teacher?
Good question. I guess, well, like Robin was saying, I started out in chemistry at Wayne State University, and I guess at the beginning I wanted to go into industry, but sometimes in your life things happen where your path is shifted. And after I graduated from Wayne State with a degree in chemistry, I decided that's really not what I wanted to do. So I tried teaching for a while. And like Robin, you fall in love with teaching young people. So that's basically how I got started.
What is it about teaching from a dialectic perspective that is different from the way things are being taught now?
Well, dialectics, one of the things that we deal with in dialectics is always compare and contrast, okay? And dialectics means to resolve contradictions through a process of synthesis. So that's what we do. And of course we use Western society and Western culture as our contradiction. Okay, so we're consistently comparing and contrast Western science versus Eastern or African sciences.
And also what dialectics does, if it's taught correctly, it connects everything together. So the West has, once, like I said before, compartmentalized everything. So what we try to do in our classroom is integrate biology with chemistry, with physics, with mathematics, with color, with art, with images of yourself, with history. So it makes sense, so that you're not just studying a fraction that's been skewed of and being miseducated. And that way the students become completely involved in education, in the classroom, and because it relates to their environment.
Well, we know science didn't begin until the Greeks appeared in history. Democritus, Archimedes, and others, correct?
Correct, according to the textbooks that are used in the Detroit public school system and in the major universities throughout this country.
But of course we counteract that. We develop a supplement that goes with our textbooks that of course have books like Stolen Legacy and Destruction of Black Civilizations and Egyptian Miracle and Egyptian Mysteries and those kinds of things. So we counteract those kinds of statements and lies by teaching them the truth.
The word chemistry comes from the term alchemy, which is the name of, that the Greeks, the name of, the original name for the land that the Greeks called Egypt. It was called Kemet. How do you maintain interest in science with your students? How do you get young students from the ghetto?
Hard work. Hard work. Well, part of it, we begin in the beginning of the semester by teaching them about themselves and how great they are and how great a people they have come from. And in doing that and developing their sense of self, that helps to motivate them. That's really part of what we do.
For instance, the second semester, I'm the biology teacher. So we deal with the systems of the body, respirations, digestive system, circulatory, so forth and so on. That can be excruciatingly boring. Just learning, rote memorization, then vomiting it back up the way I want it. So the students created for the circulatory system a rap. Something like, the blood goes to the superior vena cava and the blood goes to the inferior vena cava. Everybody's participating in this. We're in a circle and they are rapping to it, and the brothers, they have the beat and the blood goes, and it's it's a rap. So they get involved in that. On the test essay, they're able to chart, process, explain. They're able to communicate it outside of rap. So in the so-called
you have to interrelate their lives into what you're doing in the classroom, and I do a lot more hands-on laboratory experiments in the classroom.
Very good, because that was leading to my next question in terms of what is the ultimate objective of the science. It seems that in Western science, when there's a great discovery, they use it for military purposes. They have yet to invent a safe way to produce nuclear power, but they can blow up the world 1,000,000 times. How do you, is there any moral criteria, any values applied when you teach science? I mean, is biology for the purpose, for instance? Is the ultimate objective being able to reproduce humans in glass, in vitro? Or in chemistry, do we want to create the ultimate apple through chemistry?
Okay,
Go ahead.
Essentially, when we give them the data and they have a chance to look at Western civilization and they have a chance to look at the Western perspective of science, and then they can see the effects, like the greenhouse effect, ozone depletion, and they can do the experiments themselves, hands-on in the laboratory. We don't have to give them their sense of morality, because if you give them the truth, they decide for themselves, because they can see evidence of the destruction of the entire earth based on this miseducation. And then also we give them the ancient Eastern perspective, the African perspective, how we dealt with science, how everything was related, everything had life, and they understand that. Instead of water being dead, water is alive, and won't misuse it then, won't be polluted.
One of the experiments, one of the first experiments that we do is classifying what is alive, what is non-living, and what was once living and now dead. So we start helping them develop their own sense of values through, like we said, through dialectics and comparing and contrasting consistently. So we don't tell them, because as soon as you start telling them things, then they turn you out.
Because people have been telling them lies for so long. They don't want to hear anybody. It's fact. Give me some proof. Let me experience it myself. Give me the data. Let me work with it.
Experience is the best teacher for them.
Right.
So we guide them. That's what we're really supposed to be as teachers, as guiders. You know, guiding them down a path so that they can resolve their own
make
contradictions and make choices.
Right. Where they're able to make choices for themselves.
African people of African descent face at least one major dilemma, and that's AIDS. And it has been, in our history, we have had many great doctors and scientists who were able to deal with our problems. Do you think that within the context of your perspective of teaching, we'll get the next generation of great scientists? Say yes.
Well, we hope so. That's what
Recently, during the spring break, I had the pleasure of accompanying you on a trip to Chicago, where some of the students participated in a competition sponsored by the National Organization of Black Chemists and Chemical Engineers. Tell me about your experience.
What got us to do the trip?
Well, I want to know about the preparation of the students.
Oh, God. Do you have 3 hours?
Hold on.
What was their attitude? Were they excited about this? How did they like competing?
Okay, first of all, you have to understand that when you talk about the Walking Dead, that's our students, okay? So they don't know what it really is to be excited about anything except the latest gym shoe or the latest hairstyle, okay? So to get them interested in that, we had to it was a serious struggle. Now, part of what got us interested, of course, was our program and wanting them to leave what we call the prison, because we consider the school as a prison for them. When we were at the ASCAC convention, we met several people from Chicago, and we felt that that would be a really great place to take our students, considering all of the institutions that were there were not here in Detroit, that we could take our students to. And in conjunction with that, because of our connections with ASCAC, we ended up talking with
ASCAC? ASCAC is the Association for the Study of Classical African Civilizations, because the audience may not be familiar.
That's true.
Community Task Force for Education is the institutional representative in Detroit.
Okay, now, when we... Echoing. No.
Let's just don't monitor. We'll edit that out.
I know. We took our students with us to the ASCAC convention, the Midwestern convention, right? Okay. We met Ife Carruthers there, who's a teacher in the Chicago public school system and is the wife of Dr. Carruthers, Jacob Carruthers. And she hooked us up with Dr. Hunter Adams, who, of course, enlightened us about this Novishka convention that was going to be in Chicago. So we thought it would be wonderful for our students to get out of the prison, go to Chicago, go to the different institutions like the Kemetic Institute, the different museums, and
Malcolm X
College, and where else did we go?
Nation
of Islam.
Which was one of the high points for the students going to the Nation of Islam. When you talk to the students, you say, what was the best thing about Chicago? They always say the Nation of Islam. So
they were impressed.
They were very impressed. I found that very interesting. They were more impressed with that. Although a lot of them really loved the Kemetic Institute.
They did.
Everyone there, everywhere we went, they opened their arms like this to us. And it was the first time I can say that the students really had a sense of their own importance, that other people valued them. Why?
Just because they were who they are.
That's what they were saying. Why? And in fact, there was a sister of the Nation of Islam that said, I love you. And the response from our students, how can she love us? She doesn't know us. Nobody loves us. We're dogged out on every account. The school system kills us, destroys us. Our families, many of them, are dysfunctional. The church has not provided a way for us. We're completely alienated from the church. So all of a sudden when you start telling people, when Valerie and I, they didn't trust us for a long time. How could we actually care about them? Nobody else had in so long. So it was a struggle. It was a process. It was a process.
Well, of course, I'm curious because dealing with the Nation of Islam, and the nation is viewed as radicals and separatists, and they're nationalists, of course, as we all are. And what type of cooperation do you get from your superiors at school?
What support, dear?
With having this type of perspective, what kind of cooperation and support do you get?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, I'm going to start from giving accolades, because this would never been able to happen on a legitimate level, because it was going to happen anyway, because Valerie and I were going to do it. But we had the go-ahead from Mrs. Zodi Johnson, who is the superintendent of Area A. And she's been so supportive and so beautiful. But she's up there in terms of the hierarchy, and we're down here as teachers. So there are all these people in between. Then we had to be approved by Dr. Chester Rogers, who was the principal of King High School. And it was absolutely fantastic. We used to go to Dr. Rogers' office and just, these are ideas, Dr. Rogers. We would like to do this with the students. We would like to take the students to the Ethiopian restaurant. We'd like to take the students to so forth and so on. We want to see if we can get more material from Ford Motor Company. Dr. Rogers, do it. Go ahead. He was very supportive, and he gave
extremely supportive.
Yeah, a lot of strength. He didn't have any fear. And then there was a complete breakdown after Dr. Rogers left. There was, because the school changed hands, and it was a complete breakdown.
You know, you got another principal?
Yes, another principal.
And you didn't get the same level of cooperation from the successor.
That's, I think that's stated correctly.
Very accurately.
Very accurately. Another thing, and I can say this very honestly, Valerie and I thought that there would be opposition to this program just because we were teaching the truth, and everything else in the school system, most everything else, is in a lie. So we knew there was going to be opposition. We thought we were going to get it from the Caucasian people in the department. Well, we did. They were irate. They were incensed that they had to take down their sign of their little monkey on the, well, I had to explain that. In my classroom, I share a classroom with another teacher, and there's a sign that said about the size of my head, life size, of an ape with big eyes. And it says a scripture under it says, test what test? Now, if you're an educator, or if you can think back and you remember what happens when you, as soon as the kids come in the class, you say, okay, you have a test today, all the students say, test what test? So this is historical. The main thing Valerie and I want to do is get the students to be able to read the symbols and understand the signs. This, where was it located, Val?
In the microscope cabinet.
It was located on the microscope cabinet. So when you go get the microscope, you see the monkey in conjunction simultaneously with the reflection of yourself, saying test what test. So we dealt with that in my classroom in terms of what does this mean? What people have historically been thought of as monkeys? What's the evidence? The Tarzan movies, the books, so forth and so on. But we also had the supplements to show them that this is false. And I asked my students, it was very, very painful. I asked them, I said, how does this make you feel? Who was this monkey talking about? Well, they knew it was talking about them. One young lady said, well, you are a monkey if you're not ready for a test. I said, so you're a subhuman if you're not ready for a test? Why can't you just be a student that's not ready for a test that can get ready for the test the next time?
Being a monkey.
Without being a monkey.
Sort of simian.
So we have that kind of symbolism we were dealing with, and that kind of opposition.
So how do the youngsters respond to this perspective? I know from my own personal experience, they seem to be eager and anxious. And I know I send my children to a private school where this type of perspective is taught in all subjects. And it's a real experience to have to drag your kids home from school after the day, not see them running to get out of the place. How do your young people, I know these aren't children.
Well, I deal with two different types of students. I have honor students, and I have what I call my brilliant children. Honor students are those students who have been pushed through the system doing ditto sheets. Ditto sheets are those sheets where you sit down and you look in the book, you find on the line a word that fits the sentence. There's no thinking, there's no conversation, there's no dialogue. You just, here's the book, look it up, fill it in. Okay, now these students, of course, get A's. They're considered honor students. They go through the system from the time they're this big, doing ditto sheets, raising their hand, answering the appropriate question, and so on. So I get these honor students. In addition to that, they've been rewarded with positive reinforcement with the A's. Oh, I'm so bright, I'm so smart, oh, just wonderful. False. They can't think. Okay, so it was harder for me because they in their mindset figured they were bright as it was. Then when I asked them to think and resolve some kinds of contradictions, they were like, think? What are you talking about, Miss Brock? Can't we just do work out the book? Can't we just read out the book?
Give me a ditto sheet.
Right, can't we just answer questions out the book? So I had to go through a whole nother process with these honor students to get them to be more receptive. Now my brilliant students, they gave me a little hard time, but they were willing and more receptive to creative new things because nobody ever took the time to ask them anything or be concerned, as Robin was saying about them. So it's really different for them.
It's very interesting, very interesting.
To compare the two mindsets.
Well, when we went to the Kemetic Institute, we were afforded the opportunity to listen to some presentations by some of the people there, primarily Dr. Hunter Adams, who formerly ran the accelerometer, nuclear accelerometer, at the Argonne National Lab in Chicago. Presently, he's involved in environmental issues. The young people seem to be excited by his presentation. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough time to finish. Dr. Adams has written the baseline essays for the Detroit Public Schools strands on African American life and history. The baseline essays have been accepted by the Portland Public Schools. They're called African and African American Contributions to Science and Technology. Have you been afforded the opportunity to use this in any of your teaching?
Let me say something about that.
Now, before you do, the reason I'm asking this is because this was presented to the Detroit public school system about 2 years ago.
All right. Okay. All right.
And
That's
it's been on the desk of Dr. Stuart Rankin. And we've been clamoring to have curriculum reform within the school system. They claim there's no textbooks, there's no information, there's no data. So what I want to know is, why do I have this? Because if there's no data.
You have it because of people like Stu Rankin. Because he definitely is not concerned about the curriculum of our students. Well, his objective, obviously, is to keep the miseducation continuing. That's the bottom line. We should recognize that. And we're going to have to go around people like him.
And you have to realize the structure of the system. Almost no one, it's almost impossible to make a teacher teach this in their classroom. Bottom line. We're in the science department. Every department on high school level has a department head. Your department head is supposed to be responsible for what you're teaching. Generally, the department head will
a paper pusher.
It's a paper chase. So we have this. So we have the data. No one's going to make the teachers teach it. The teachers are not going to teach it on a general, overall basis. Now, there will be some, like myself, like Valerie, like other teachers that I could name.
But part of that is because they don't have the training. They don't have the understanding. They don't know.
But even if what she's saying is, how are you going to get, like the Caucasian people we work in our classroom, like we work in our school, to teach something like that? You're not going to teach them.
They're not going to teach it.
They're not going to make them teach it.
Because the department head, that means he would have to, or she would have to go up against them. They're in a position of authority, supposedly. They're not going to do that. That's the miseducation of the Negro. Because the department heads, many of them are Negroes.
So maybe part of the problem then is because within my experience, once we show the data, show the pictures, give the information to black people, they become excited about the information and want this, especially the parents. And activity from the parents seems to spark more activity from the administrator.
Okay, even in Portland, where the Portland, Oregon report with that was used. We talked with one of the brothers at the Black Child Placed in Crisis Conference. Ron Herndon is his name. And he was instrumental in organizing the Portland, Oregon report. And he told us it's sitting on the shelves in Portland. They got so far as they have even written lesson plans. The teachers aren't teaching it. The administrators aren't reinforcing the necessity to teach it. It's not a priority. Now, if the parents possibly make it a priority, that's the only way the students are going to learn, is if the parents make it a priority.
But the students have to make it a priority themselves, because if the parents are dead and you're coming from a dysfunctional home,
that's true.
And if the parents are not involved, and I'm not talking about all parents, because that's the biggest hype going when they say parents aren't involved in the school. Well, the parents used to be involved in the school. They've made it so that the parents cannot be involved in the school purposefully, because parents that are conscious make me accountable as a teacher, make the administrators accountable as a teacher, and so of course they don't want parents involved, so they put them on the outside. I have parents that are afraid to come into my classroom. I have their child. They should have my doors open. I have an open door policy, but they've never come into anybody's classroom. They stand outside the door. Can I speak to you? I said, come in anytime. You don't need an appointment to see me. You can come and sit in the class. Why not? Come and participate in the class. Do a lab.
Should be able to.
Why not? But we don't have that type of policy, and
you have to understand that the institution itself is set up for the destruction and the miseducation of us. So we really can't, in many ways, expect them to do otherwise.
Yes,
okay, that's our reality. We need to understand that, and possibly
they're doing what they're supposed to be doing.
That's right.
That's what they set out to do. So, the educational system is doing
its job.
Its job is doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. King High School, 9th grade, we're supposed to be one of the preferred high schools in Detroit. 9th grade class of 1,000. Graduating class
350.
350, say it loud. 1,000 went in,
350
comes out. Okay, some people say, well, there's got to be some of that transferring. Well, when students transfer out, you realize there's students transferring in also. Very small percentage with transfers. We're losing the students on purpose.
Well, then maybe the only solution to this crisis is an independent school system. A school system that we form ourselves with the type of curriculum that we want. I've heard the new school board talking about empowerment, but it seems as if it's going to be empowerment to teach the same old business as usual.
Well, the problem with that is when you start developing independent schools, like Robin and I have developed another project, right? I call it Pyramid Project. But the problem is that you leave out the masses of the children. You know, when you begin developing independent schools, the schools only hold so many youth. But we have hundreds of thousands of young people on a daily basis from 8 o'clock in the morning to 3 o'clock in the afternoon being conditioned to hate themselves. Yes. And so...
But you have to impose it on them. And if you develop an independent school system that is successful, then it will attract the masses of the people that want to be educated from that perspective. At the Museum of Natural History in Chicago, they had a tomb that they ripped off from Kemet as part of an exhibit, and we had the opportunity to visit. Did you get any reaction from the students on the things they saw in that exhibit?
Oh, well, of course they loved the artifacts, what they saw. But because I don't think they have enough history in terms of what those symbols and things represent, for many of them it was just something that was really nice. You know, they got a real positive vibe about it, but they didn't understand everything.
What about the blackness of the images of those people, though?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, most of the time we're led to believe that the ancient Kemites look like Carlton Heston or Elizabeth Taylor.
That was so enlightening for them. In fact, when we were at the Kemetic Institute, I don't remember the brother's name, but he had an entire slide presentation. And from the Watusi,
Charles Grantham.
It was Charles Grantham? Okay. And there was one slide of a sculpture from the Watusi tribe, and it was an asymmetrical haircut. And the face was linear. And I had a student that looked exactly like this. And she recognized when she saw herself, she said, "That's me." And she was so excited. And
it helped tie in themselves into their own history, which was really great.
Because when we were talking about Egypt, their image, of course, like many people's image, is the Western image of Egypt, where you're going to have people that are Caucasian, practically, in Egypt, doing all this wonderful creating and erecting pyramids and so forth and so on. So when the students actually could see, they looked just like me. The wigs, nappy hair. You know, they were excited about that, yes.
So now that you're going to be looking for employment, since you just dogged out Stu Rankin, what are your plans for the future?
Oh, gosh.
Well,
we would both like to go back to teaching, but I doubt if we both will. Primarily because, in the
right now,
in Michigan, state of Michigan, Robin is a biologist. She has a degree in biology. I have my degree in chemistry. We do not have state certification. So therefore, neither one of us are contract teachers. So therefore, we're being paid half what contract teachers are being paid. I've been doing it for 4 years. Robin's been doing it for 3.
And we're called ESRPs, which is emergency sub. We're classified as substitutes. Emergency subs in a regular position. The need for the emergencies, because they don't have anybody to fill these positions, because they don't have anybody with a degree in chemistry, usually is in industry making buku bucks.
Yes.
And biological science industry also.
That's right.
So we're just been making no money and
loving our children. And that's right.
It's a shame it doesn't work like that.
Well, it's on purpose.
Of course.
It's on purpose.
They don't want qualified scientists in the classroom teaching black children.
They would love to let us go, not think anything of it. In fact, we've been a thorn in their side because we organize things like this. We took our students to press conference on the EPA exam, English proficiency exam, Wayne State's campus, because the students that do make it out and go to college, most of them from Detroit Public Schools go to Wayne State, so they need to be aware of what's happening in their environment. So we took them there. We do things like that.
Took them to the Ethiopian restaurant, which was an experience for them. It was really wonderful.
Yeah.
It was a really good experience. We've done a lot of activities like that.
Why do you think that you get all this static from black people in positions of influence when you can be so effective in teaching from an African world?
Now, Mr. Nabawi, you know why.
Mr. Nabawi knows this is for the sake of television.
Okay,
so there's a book, Carter G. Woodson, Miseducation of the Negro. Everyone, if you have not read it, read it. If you've read it, read it again. And it will come so clear to you what's going on.
Why?
Because initially, these people who are direct administrators that are black that are running the system, the so-called running the system, were miseducated by the slave master, essentially. And they're vehemently continuing the same system. And there's so much self-hatred among our people that they cannot conceptualize anything different than what the system that they have been taught themselves, that's taught by the slave master to hate themselves, so they hate the kids. If you hate children, go into education.
And that's exactly what we
in
have.
South Africa, where the handkerchief heads were going to impose Bantu education on the young students, they just refused to learn to speak Afrikaans or engage in any Afrikaner
Okay, now the thing about South Africa, though, is they can actually see what's really going on in their country. They can actually see the problem that puts them in the situation where they are. Our children think everything's okay. I have students that look at me and say, racism? Oh, Miss Brock, you must be kidding.
That's right.
Or what's South Apartheid? I don't even... What is that?
We have our gym shoes.
That's right. They have no idea. That's what I said before.
Because, you know, America's been very successful by controlling masses of people by saying yes. That's the problem with South Africa.
Yes.
They're trying to control masses of people by saying no. But America says, yes, we'll give you this. Yes, we'll give you a job. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, you can go to McDonald's and work for $3.25 an hour. Yes, yes, yes.
But
so the students don't understand that.
They don't see the situation.
Middle management was invented to keep the workers off the bosses. In other words, the petty bourgeoisie was to keep
that's pushing.
So, in South Africa, to alleviate the situation, they developed a tactic. They formalized vulcanized jewelry for the handkerchief heads, and that seemed to be a way of keeping their own people under control. I'm not recommending that, but I'm just saying when you study history, just like in Palestine, if you're going to make the people who are working in cooperation with the enemy to oppress you, then there's something has to be done to alleviate that situation. And I would think that somewhere down the line, if we're going to survive into the 21st century in spite of AIDS and genocide and fratricide and all these other sides, that homicide that's killing our people, then we're going to have to do something. Like that.
Well, part of that too, I think, community organizations are going to have to start reaching out to the young people and really like snatching them up, because it's going to be the young people, just like in South Africa, that are going to make the difference, just like all over the world. So the organizations that are doing something and want to do something to change our conditions are going to have to start dealing with our children. And they can walk right down any street now and get a bunch of them off the street corner. If the brothers and sisters could just start communicating with these young people, the conscious ones, we'll start making a change, because then those kids will go back to the school system and start asking, how do you get, like our students have, how do you get rid of a teacher who isn't teaching?
Miss James, that is a question that's coming up over and over and over again. What do we do? How do you get rid of a teacher? They didn't know they weren't being taught. They said, all we do is ditto sheets. They're sick of it because they've been turned off for so long. They thought this was education. But when you start to give them something different, they start
giving
challenging
them
it.
Life. How ironic coming from the sisters. Sisters give life.
Well, we don't give life, but
sisters give.
Well,
yes, that's true.
I'd like to thank our guests, Miss Valerie Brock and Miss Robin James, for appearing on this segment of KEPRA, the African Worldview.
Thank you.
Asante.
Hotep, this is Tahira Ahmed with the Kepra African Worldview Program. We are interviewing distinguished leaders, Dr. John Henry Clark and Dr. Ben, and we are asking them specifically, what should the African worldview be? Dr. Clark.
The African worldview, if it is to be realistic, must move toward the unification of all African people, and it must be based on Pan-Africanism, African nationalism, and African socialist values that were not extracted from Europe.
Dr. Ben, what should the African worldview be?
Well, I think that I would say that the African worldview, to me, needs a greater consensus of the varied leaders or the varied people, not necessarily leaders, coming together in a type of a convention, and out of which would come a definitive statement that would be the official part of an African worldview. In lieu of that, I would like to see a worldview that expresses similar to what Dr. Clark just said, and to re-emphasize or add, if addition was necessary, that the African worldview must be a view that considers first and foremost the African people and the African homeland.
Dr. Clark, could you expound upon what you say should be an African worldview among people who are void of their history?
Look, first place, no people can be whole emotionally and be separated from their history, because their history is the basis of their human beingness and their national aspiration. And so the pursuit of history is like a man pursuing a clock that tells him the time of day and a compass that he can use to locate himself on the map of human geography. You start with a history, the same as you look at the clock in the morning, see how much time you got the rest of the day. You look at your history in a broad way about the same way. I mean, and that a people cannot be deprived of that history and be a whole people. And we are, the beginning of our togetherness, the beginning of a world view is to realize that we are world people. And we are the most dispersed of the world's people, that Africans can be found all over the world. There's an African component in Asia, South America, in the South Sea Islands. Then there's Africa itself that needs to be considered. We and the Chinese might be the only people who can count 1 billion people, but you can have 2 billion people, but it don't matter if you haven't organized them, haven't politicized them, if you haven't breathed into them a sense of their own direction and definition, the numbers don't matter.
Dr. Ben, you are now living in Kemet. Could you tell us what are your experiences and how can we as a people begin to make a connection in terms of perhaps living there ourselves and doing the extensive researching as you're doing?
Number one, my experiences in Kemet is, I should say, are multifold. But basically, the greatest of my experience is my interaction with the people there, the indigenous Africans who can trace back their background to the ancient Egyptians and Nubians, the Arabs who traces back their history to the arrival of the original Arabs in 638, and the Coptics who doesn't want to trace their history to anywhere else but Egypt, but the evidence are there that there are remnants of the various European invasions that came in. That alone is experience of great value, because I have the problem of debate with certain of them constantly to remind them who they are in respect to the African experience. Secondly, my research in archaeology, trying to bring forward other artifacts that will prove the antiquity of the Nubians as against the ancient Egyptians. There are other factors, of course, going on in my research, which makes it most important, and that is trying to establish the roots of a Kemetan society or Tamarian society, dealing back to the nations of Central East Africa, namely from Penwet, which it was later called Puanit by the Hebrews, all the way down, showing the origin, the southern origin of Kemetian society.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ben. Dr. Clark, you have been an inspiration to the people here and all over the world, and I'm sure you can see the results of it. Please continue your work. Thank you.
Come.
I used to hurry home from school. I used to always feel so blue, because there was no mention in the books we read about my heritage. Something for any information that I got was education. So goes at depot stations, I would listen with much patience for the relatives who told the tales that they were told to pass ahead. But then one day, from someone old